So we're here to talk about Amazon Web Services. Does anybody here use it? Amazon Web Services? Put your hand down, David. Is anybody here using Amazon Web Services to run their entire application, soup to nuts? Awesome.
Well, we're launching on Friday, but...
Well, we're here to hopefully spare you some pain, because we've certainly felt a lot of it. I know that already sounds like a negative, but we love Amazon Web Services. It's the best decision we've made, I think, technology-wise. Of course, I have to say that because my boss is up in the back. So. We did, well, first let me back up a little bit. Geezeo, we're a social finance management application. We allow you to track all your finances in one place. So if you have checking accounts, savings accounts, investment accounts, student loans, what have you, you can bring them all into our website and aggregate all the data from your actual financial institution, and yeah, and look at the tags and see where you're spending your money. Like if you're anything like me, you're spending a lot of money on food and entertainment. So one of the things that we did, we've made a lot of changes since we set this whole thing up, and one of the first things we did when we set up was we decided what we needed to do was we needed to find a hosting platform that was cost effective, and realistically we needed to find something that could scale and not have to make phone calls and wait for a week and go through a bunch of headaches. And I had been hearing a lot of things about this, so we decided to check it out. And basically all of these bullets here, cost effective, flexible, reliable, secure, it hits on all of them. And Amazon they really came through on all of these points. So headache number one. We started off. All right. So I'm going to explain a little bit. I know I'm rambling. EC2. It's an elastic compute cloud. Basically, you can put your application on a bunch of on one server, and you can launch an instance of that server. And then if your traffic demands need, you can launch another instance. You can launch 100 more instances based on the traffic you're getting, so that you can meet the needs of if you get a dog or something like that, you can handle it. One of the setbacks of Amazon is that none of these instances have persistent storage. So if you have a crash and you're running your database on there, it's gone, you're done. So what we started off doing was we had our database located off-site, and because of the nature of what we do with people's financial information, it has to be extremely secure. So we were running an SSH tunnel from the application servers to the database server, and that is very evil because, as you can imagine, there's lots of latency there. It's very slow, and we found that out in probably, I think, the first month?
Just now.
Yeah. So we decided to try something new. So one of the cool things about EC2, the Elastic Compute Cloud, is that once you've got your application running on it, if something happens, if you were to crash or whatever, you can literally get back up and running in minutes, like 2 minutes, or however long it takes to launch an instance and point your DNS at the new instance. So it's very quick. So you don't have to worry too much about data replication, that kind of thing, because unless you need up to the second uptime, which most people probably don't if they're running a normal web business, you can afford 2-3 minutes of downtime if something bad happens. So what we decided to do was we added our database server to the cloud, and what that bought us is a much faster connection, and basically what we decided to do is replicate off the S3. Does everybody know what S3 is, or should I explain that? Okay, I see nodding heads, so you know what it is. So
What's
so
that? What's S3?
Okay, so S3 is Amazon's other. They've got many web services, right? But Amazon's like the first two major ones that they launched were S3, which is the simple storage service, and EC2, the Elastic Compute Cloud, which gives you all the horse computing power. S3 is incredibly cheap and fast and reliable. It's basically, I think it's like 15 cents per gigabyte stored. So you can store terabytes of data, and you're not gonna break your piggy bank or anything like that. It's pretty amazing. And because it's on the same network as EC2, data backups are pretty quick. So what we do is we back up our database every 5 minutes to S3. So in the event of a crash, something bad happens, we lose 5 minutes worth of data, which at the moment we can live with. There are other things that we're doing which we're going to talk about so that we can avoid even that. So this is the second headache I'm going to tell you to avoid.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
Just because this is a financial site and you're dealing with their data, I don't fully understand what the users do on the site. How can you afford 5 minutes of just losing people's data if it's financial?
We're not losing people's data. It's
So, yeah,
I'm saying we can afford 5 minutes of downtime.
Okay.
We're backing up the stuff that people do, like people's data realistically is only getting updated once a day in terms of bank aggregation, right? So if you so for instance,
that's the data you're going out to get it from other banks. You can always
right.
do that again.
So I'll back up one more time and explain a little bit more about what we do so you can understand that. So we use a service called Cache Edge, which is one of, I think, 3 in the world that provides data aggregation. And the way it works is they have an API, we use their API, pay them lots of money for it, and we go out and we grab your financial information. So if you have a Bank of America account, you log into our site, you can add Bank of America as a bank. And what happens is it brings in your transactions, it brings in your latest balance, and every night that gets updated. So it's not like, we back up, the 5 minute backups thing is more or less because we have a social side of the site too, which, people are adding goals and in groups, but it's nothing to do with your finances, it's more or less to do with the social side.
Sorry, just talk about how you move the database server into the EC3, one of the EC3 nodes, is that right?
EC2.
EC2, sorry.
Okay, 3 is better, it's one more.
Elastic Computing Cloud Cluster.
Yeah.
So, obviously you can't scale a data, well, it's difficult to scale a database horizontally. What kind of RAM and storage space do you have on that node?
Yes. Give me a second, because I'm going to get to that, because that's part of it. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
So, you'll hear that. So anyway, so this was an idea of ours, of his. I'm blaming him. This was an idea of ours. We're going to create a cluster because we're cutting edge, and
because you can do anything in EC2. That's the beauty of it. You want a cluster, build a cluster.
So we decided to try this, and we had this running actually. In QA, we had the two management nodes there, and we had the SQL nodes, and we were still backing up to S3, and it was running like a champ in QA. And then we tried it with our production data.
It looks great on paper, worked great on the bench, fell on its knees in production. So probably the biggest lesson I learned there was the small instances that EC2 has, no good for database clustering. Not enough RAM, not enough computing power associated with it, and the bandwidth was capped at 100 megs, so talking between the data nodes, it was so much latency.
Long story short,
Evil, yeah. Long story short, actually, it was a 36-hour nightmare of mine. No sleep. We wanted to go for a launch. It was like Wednesday. I was all fired up. Everything was looking good in QA. We got everything up. We got everything running. This whole model that you see there. We loaded the live set into it to just test. Whole thing came crashing down on itself. just couldn't run. You couldn't even log into the thing. 500 errors up the wazoo. It was ugly. This was before they rolled out the new size instances.
Right, so to answer your question, Amazon just came out with large and extra large instances. So they've got the regular instance, which is what we were running for a long time, which is 2 gigs of RAM. And
it's like the equivalent of a 1.7 T4.
Yeah. And then they've got the secondary, the next one up, which is 7 gigs of RAM.
7.5.
And
it's a dual core processor.
Right. See why I brought him? And then it's and then the third was like 15.
Yeah, it's obscene. It's 4 cores and 15 gigs of RAM.
No, and there's only like a slight price difference, I think. You know, it's like.
Yeah, the small is 10 cents an hour, large is 40 cents, and extra large is 80 cents.
Right.
So it's a big jump. If you think about the 10 cents to the 80 cents.
What's the minimum?
Large.
No,
40 cents.
40 cents. Okay, so to bring it to the next point, I guess I'm done with this because from here on it's like we went off in totally different directions. So there's a company that we're trying out. They're called Elastra, and they have a database solution, which they built one of these that works, unlike us. Because we tried to. This is a MySQL cluster, and they built their own solution, and it works a lot faster. And James can talk a lot more about how it works, but in terms of pricing, I think it's 50 cents. Right?
50 cents.
So it's 10 more cents that you're paying for a clustered solution, and you can you don't have to worry about performance or anything like that because they've got a nice interface. You need to add database nodes. You can add as many as you want to cover the traffic you're getting, stuff like that. And yeah, tell them all about it. It's great.
Yeah. Well, after a nightmare, we actually came back full circle back to our original single database solution, and we went back to the when they rolled out the large size instances, and we made some fine tuning to the database. Life got a little bit better, and I could actually sleep. But then we heard from Elastra, and the cool thing about Elastra is it actually runs inside EC2, and it does away with our need to have a dedicated MySQL instance. They give us a JDBC driver, and we hook into them. And the cool thing about it is it's 50 cents basically for a node. So you're paying 10 cents extra, but the sizzle there is you actually get versioning on your backups, just like you would be checking into SVN and everything, so you can actually break your sets. So you can take live data for QA or for data mining, and you don't have to worry about corrupting or mucking up your live sets. So if somebody decides to issue drop all, who cares? It's a branch.
So for
Maybe another
developers, think of it like SVN. You can actually get different versions of your database, like snapshots of time, and you can run queries against it.
Or if you're playing with schema changes, you can branch out a whole pile of them, play with it. And like we said, it's a clustered solution. So the cool thing about it, we're getting into the beta, we're getting everything tightened down. They haven't rolled out the GUI, but the GUI will allow you to actually monitor how your cluster's performing. If you notice you're taking on more of a load than you can handle, just fire up a couple more instances. Scale them up, scale them back, depending on what your load is. So, as an admin, I'm quite happy I can drop SQL, running a MySQL instance inside EC2, and pass the pain on to somebody else.
So you said they gave you a JDBC driver, so they're not actually running MySQL. They've got their own database thing that you're talking to?
Yeah, yep. Custom solution. I think it's, if I understand correctly, I've been talking to them, it's built on MySQL, but they rolled the cluster themselves. They didn't use the stock stuff that we were using.
Okay.
But through them, you basically work the same way that you would with EC2 in the sense that for the 50 an hour, you get one large instance, and then one.
Yeah.
Because their business is built on EC2. So.
Yeah. They're building, kind of like Right Scale and Anomaly are, they're building off of EC2. So you get all the benefits of EC2 for a couple extra cents on top of it. And that, like you said, that 50 cents actually, that's a large size node, so you're getting a lot of horsepower right out of the gate.
Go ahead.
Do you get alerts or anything when you load this way
Through Elastra or our own stuff?
up? I'll ask her.
Elastra, I do believe so. We're rolling out Nagios on our end so we can monitor everything, get alerts. Hopefully they have a similar solution for alerting. I would imagine that they do when the dashboard comes out.
Just one more question too. What is Amazon's SLA? I mean, do you guys have something on paper that covers you?
They rolled out for what? For S3 they did, right?
Yeah, I believe it's all on their website, but, I mean, the way I explain it in like the most simplest, dumbest down terms I can is, it's Amazon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else do you need to say? I mean, they're running a multi-billion-dollar business on this infrastructure. They're letting people borrow. So if it works for them, hey, you know.
You know, for us, we've never actually had any downtime that was unrelated to our own screw-ups.
You had to say that?
Yeah. Well, in this case, I mean, they had hardware just before we did the presentation for the conference. They had hardware that was degraded, and they sent us a notice 2 weeks ahead of it, shutting it down, saying, "Hey, here's your instance ID. We've got to shut it down. Can you take care of it before we do it for you?" So.
Yeah, never once, you know, and I hate to knock some more. Never once have we had any downtime related to Amazon. And we've been running this for how long now? Since what, January or February, something like that? So almost a year we've been on this infrastructure, and it's never gone, not even for 10 seconds, it's never gone down. Yes?
I understand the process of rolling out a Rails application onto an EC2 instance is a little weird. Did you guys have any problems?
The only real hiccup, the only real like gotcha is with the DNS. You know, because you set up these instances and they do these wacky numbers like, you know, AWS 94, you know, another 20 digits, .amazon.com. And they're supposedly doing away, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but they're supposedly doing away with permanent IPs, right?
The public IPs, yeah.
Public IPs.
It's all going to be Class C, non-routable internal IPs.
Right.
With that DNS name associated with the node.
Yeah, so that's the only tricky thing, but we use a site called Zone Edit, right? Is that right?
Yep.
And it's a really crappy looking website. It's probably like one of the worst sites you'll ever see visually, but the service is amazing. Why they don't hire a designer, even like even somebody's kid brother could do a better job. You know? But yeah, in terms of deploys, we use Capistrano, so it's pretty simple as far as that goes. Any other gotchas you can think of, Dave? In terms of rolling out a Ruby application?
No, because the instances look like a normal server to SSH and other tools. So
Yeah.
And there's a lot of community love for it. There's actually a dedicated Rails AMI, Amazon Machine Image, that all you have to do is just sign up for EC2 and then just launch that, get your key and launch it. And you're ready to go. You can just deploy to it.
So these stuff you tried to put together, is there any reason that wouldn't work out other than the hassle?
Which one? Which setup?
Oh, yeah, the database clustering?
Did that like not the first time, but now?
This one here?
Yeah,
That one?
must be crazy.
The front end top will work great. That's where we actually broke the load balancer out and had separate application servers because we could eat under the small instances about 10 mongrels per instance. So in this case we had 30 across there. The MySQL cluster, maybe if you had the money in the bank and you could roll it on the large and extra large instances.
Yeah, that's a key thing. When we tried this, Amazon didn't have the large and extra large instances yet. So we did this on the 2 gig, and it's just not enough.
Yeah, the cost starts to really, and when you start talking about those extra large instances, 80 cents an hour at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes at 80 cents an hour, that starts.
Like how many EC3 extra large things you could compare to?
Oh, you could probably, if you wanted to, you could probably do a cluster on a single box or 2 boxes, and run 2 SQLs on a box and 2 data nodes to that. You could get crazy. We figured, with it just being me rolling these things, it was easier to go outside of and find experts. And it's more cost effective, which the bosses like.
I'm guessing you're freezing your gems into the Rails app and then deploying to Capstone and those kind of things. But what about any other external libraries that may need to be on the server? How do you deploy those? And open up new instances with those libraries?
Right. So, and that sort of goes with your question. The tricks. That's one of the only pains in the butt that you're going to have getting started. After you're rolling along, because when you're first building an application, you don't know what gems you're going to need, what plugins you're going to need, and so you're finding that out as you go and as you're developing more. But after a while, after you've got a lot of stuff going, you're probably not going to be adding too many gems after the fact, after a few months of development or whatever. But yes, that was actually one of the reasons before James came on full time with us, I hired him as a consultant because most of my time was being spent rebuilding these instances. So every single time that we had to add a gem or we had to add a plugin or any kind of anything to do with Unix, any kind of open source software that we needed to get on the box, we would have to go and we'd have to build a new instance, because the whole idea of using EC2 is that you get the box to be this perfect box for you and for your application, so that when you need to, you can just say, boom, fire up a new instance and it's going. But if you don't constantly keep your instance up to date, then you're going to be in trouble. So a lot of our time was being spent, constantly keeping our instances up to date, which is why we.
Now a lot of my time is spent keeping
our
instances up to date.
Exactly.
But I mean, it is a good solution because it's kind of like, because it runs a lot like VMware. So you just take a snapshot of it, and then when you need it, like in those worst case scenarios, if something goes down, as long as you're up to date with your private AMIs, just fire them off.
But you do have a CC compiler in order to build custom gens and things like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is that with these boxes, you can run whatever you want. Like this box over here could be an Ubuntu box with all the development libraries. This one over here could be Fedora. It doesn't matter. There's so many of them and there's open source ones that people just put up there to let you download and use, or you can completely roll your own from scratch if you're just that kind of person. So yeah, it's the most and that's primarily one of the reasons why I like using EC2 over some kind of hosting company. When you start using a hosting company, you get whatever they give you. You get Fedora 6, right? And that's what you're going to get on all your boxes. And if you want, Ubuntu on one box and Fedora on another box, you're either paying more or it's some kind of headache, and you got to call them, and you got to,
It's a sysadmin's dream, probably more than a developer's dream, because you really roll in your own hardware, essentially. Well, not hardware, but your own OSs, whatever you want, whatever your needs are. You need CentOS, got it. You need Red Hat Enterprise, you got it. Whatever you want, you can do it. And like you said, you can fire up the base image that they have and make your own. Roll your own. However you want to do it. You want Gen 2? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. Watch it compile all weekend.
It's $400 in compile.
Yeah, exactly. Very expensive solution.
Could you briefly describe your asset serving strategy and how do you use the Amazon stuff to serve assets?
Sure. We use Mongrel, which is our application server, and then we just use Apache for anything that's like a JPEG, GIF, JavaScript. Anything that's not Rails is served by Apache. That's
so you use S3 to do that?
Yeah, we do. We keep our images on S3. It depends. Like, there's specific images that we keep. I mean, everything is served by Apache, but in terms of which images we keep on S3 and which images we keep on our development boxes, our application boxes, I mean, the images that we keep on our application boxes are basically the images that we use, like on the home page or whatever. Images that we keep on S3 are stuff that our users upload. So, avatars or, whatever, whatever they upload. Yeah, so, because you got thousands of users, you don't need that stuff going on your application box.
Back to me, did you roll your own S3 file storage stuff, or did you just use attachment foo, or how'd you do that?
What did we do, Dave?
Attachment food.
All right, thanks.
Attachment food. Yes. I should know that. Anyone else?
What it takes to keep track of or version the different images that you build to use?
One more time?
How do we track them?
Or yeah, or how do you
Well, with the AMIs, when you bundle them, you can chuck them up onto S3. That's essentially the second step. So you make a bundle, and then you send that bundle up to S3, and that's where you can name your buckets and whatnot. So basically, what I've done is I've named them what the images are. Actually,
I got
calling
the
it
S3.
up.
Yeah, I'm actually going to bring up the
They
EC2
can
UI as
see how
well.
messy it is or something.
This is actually pretty cool. So Firefox, well, I mean, the EC2 folks are, I don't know who did it. Somebody did it. Somebody who loves Firefox and EC2 decided that they would make a plugin. So I'll show it to you. Here's our EC2 UI. This is right now, I think, how we manage our nodes, right? Our instances.
Actually, I moved back to the command line.
Oh, all right, well, Unix
It's
guy.
just faster. Just as you can see, it's got load.
Well, yeah, well, this is EBGO, so it's going to be slow. While that's loading.
But yeah, with S3, so you name your buckets, and that's essentially what I do. And then I keep a list, kind of like a little grocery list of what active AMIs I'm using, which ones are depreciated.
Right, so, wow, this awesome resolution we've got here, this is,
But yeah, see, here's our running ones that you can see zipping by.
we've got a few because we're running stuff in QA as well. And these are the AMIs. What does AMI stand for?
Amazon Machine Image.
Right.
So you see the manifest name, like you were asking, how do you know? When that manifest name there where it says Geezeo _ harvest, that's a bucket in S3. And then after that, you can, I'm lazy, and just call them
Right,
what
so-
the default is.
So here are some of the public ones that people put together. So, this stuff could be, they could be LAMP servers, they could be, specifically built for Ruby,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, there's thousands of them that you can use. So that's the Firefox tool for managing your EC2 cloud, and then there's one for managing your S3 files, and these are like where we store our images and any of our files. And it's pretty messy. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I got a clean house. This is a little embarrassing. Like my CD laundry thrown all over.
Any other questions?
Does it do anything crazy by default or interesting by default with load balancing and geolocating, sending someone to the closest Amazon server? Or anything like that?
Now, we use Pound right now, and we're looking at different options. I mean, I know that there's technologies being invented every day for load balancing, software load balancing, so we're looking at other options. Pound is okay, but I think it has problems supporting SSL if it's not on the same machine. If it's redirecting to instances that are on separate physical boxes, the SSL doesn't work or something. Go ahead.
Do you know whether or not all of the the EC2 nodes are locally in the same data center or anything like that, or are they spread out across the United States?
Yeah, I think they're in the same data center, right?
Yeah, they're not physically on the same boxes.
Right.
Like if you watch them launch, they'll pick up different. You can see sort of how they might spread out over the data center.
I'm just wondering, Rackspace just had that issue that affected all of 36.
Yeah.
And it's because of one data center,
Wow, we almost went with them. Dodged them the bullet.
And I know, when I used to work at CitySearch, and we had a data center in Los Angeles and a data center in Chicago for disaster recovery stuff. I was just wondering if you get that built in with EC2.
Yeah, I mean,
To be honest, I don't
yeah,
precisely know how Amazon's data center is structured. You know, likely it's probably a couple of different data centers and your stuff's spread over.
okay, best guess.
Best guess.
But if you have questions like that, I can hook you up with the right guy to talk to. He can answer questions for sure. Anyone else? Going once? Sold to nobody. All right.